This story begins with a radio broadcast about the country's recovery after a war, announcing that 50 young men are preparing for a challenge. In a car, Jenny begs her son Ray to back out. Although the deadline has passed, she believes the commander would make an exception. Ray cuts her off. It's his decision and the only way, and his father isn't around to argue about it. Upon arrival, Ray gives his identification. Jenny gives him some cookies, and they share a tearful hug. She tries to hold him back, saying she can't bear it, but he insists everything will be fine and that he has to go. Ray says goodbye and heads to the meeting point where he meets Pete. They both admit to being nervous and compare their weights, noting they are both around 80 kilos, about 176 pounds, and have heard it's harder for the heavier ones. They watch Stevens, an athletic and distant competitor. They are joined by Han, who says he's just there for a walk, and Al Baker, who confesses he's terrified and just wants to make friends. They see another young man, Curly, warming up nervously. Curly confirms he's 18, but Han mutters that he probably lied about his age and doesn't know what he's gotten himself into. Han, in contrast, claims to know what he's doing. He researched the commander, and the key is to be aggressive. The commander's arrival interrupts the chat. Nearby, Varkovich mentions Rule 13, conserve energy, but Han tells him to shut up. The commander takes roll call and hands out the placards to the participants, calling Markovich 5, Baker 6, Curly 7, Pete 23, Stebbins 38, Han 46, Garrity 47, Parker 48, and Harkness 49. Lined up, the commander gives them a speech. He tells them they are men with guts. He explains that the Long March was created to inspire the value of work in the youth and to combat the epidemic of laziness holding the country back after the war. He states that they are the answer to making the country #1 in the world again. Next, he summarizes the rules. They must walk until only one is left, maintaining a pace of 5 kilometers per hour. If they drop below speed, they receive a warning. If they don't speed up within 10 seconds, they receive the second. On the third, they are out. However, 1 hour of walking at a good pace erases one warning. Stepping off the pavement is immediate elimination without warning. He clarifies there is no finish line. The last one who refuses to give up wins. After asking if they are ready to win, he starts the march. As they walk, Ray notices how desolate the place is. Varkovich explains that the commander forbids spectators until the final stretch, except for locals. Han tells them to smile for the camera. They pass a wheat field that Ray recognizes, confirming he's from the area. Shortly after, Stebbins receives a warning for slowing down. Han speculates it's a smart strategy to test the limits while still fresh. Baker thinks it's stupid. Further on, Varkovich suddenly stops to tie his shoelaces. He receives a first warning. He stays crouched down and gets a second. The others watch him in disbelief. Just as they give him the third warning and a soldier aims at him, Varkovich gets up and keeps going. He scoffs, saying it was just a break, but they remind him that he now needs 3 perfect hours to erase those warnings. To pass the time, they talk about the prize. Baker admits to being obsessed with the money. Ray quotes the Bible about the rich but denies being religious. He just doesn't care about money. Baker replies that it's easy to dismiss it if you didn't grow up in extreme poverty. Ray insists there are more important things. He lays out his theory. The system corners people and offers the march as the only honorable way out. That's why, even though it's not mandatory, all the desperate young men in the country sign up. He concludes that no one is there of their own free will. Stevens warns Ray that speaking ill of the march is punishable dissent, but Ray doesn't care. Pete agrees with Ray that they have no choice, but he defends the money, believing the right person could do good with it. Ray calls that a myth. Pete offers Ray a cigarette, which he refuses. Stevens tries to quote Rule 10, but they tell him to shut up. Baker accepts one, joking that the Bible doesn't forbid tobacco. Harkness approaches them and writes down their names. He explains that he's writing a book about the march from the inside and will get rich. Pete replies that if he wins, he won't need the book. Suddenly, Curly screams out from a cramp and gets a warning. Ray and Pete try to help him, telling him to lean on them. They try to encourage him, and Curly tries, but the pain is too much and he collapses. As he screams that it's not fair, a soldier executes him. In shock, several of them, including Ray, instinctively slow down and receive their own warnings. The commander gives an empty speech in Curly's memory. Later, Ray admits he's tired. Pete advises him not to think about the finish line, but to take it step by step. Pete asks about Ray's theory on the march, and Ray explains he learned it from his father. Pete, impressed, suggests they keep talking so they don't get tired. Ray asks if he's a poet. Pete confesses he would have liked to be a songwriter. Pearson, another walker, teases Ray about a girl in the crowd looking at him with admiration, but Pete defends him. Because of this, Pete says that even though they're not supposed to make friends, he likes Ray, Baker, and Han. He declares that a short friendship is better than nothing, and they decide to call themselves the Musketeers, promising unity. Varkovich mocks them, calling them queens. At that moment, walker number 1, Edwin, starts to shake. He receives 2 warnings. Varkovich comments coldly that it must be a medical problem. After the 3rd warning, Edwin is executed. Varkovich says they should be happy, as their odds of winning just improved. Passing through a town, Han fantasizes about the local girls while Ray complains about his smell. The camaraderie is broken when Varkovich pulls out raw meat and eats it, saying it gives him energy. The general disgust leads to a discussion about food, where Baker mentions frog legs in France. Shortly after, Han gets cramps. This time, the Musketeers hold him up and slow their pace in unison so he can recover without getting a warning. Later, Han drops his food. Knowing he's allergic to the remaining cured meats, Ray offers him his own ration. Tension escalates when Varkovich harasses another walker, Rank, mocking his name until he makes an offensive comment about his mother. Rank, blinded by rage and ignoring Han's warnings, lunges at Varkovich. By stopping, Rank racks up his 3 warnings and is executed on the spot. Horrified, the others call Varkovich a murderer. Pete, furious, yells that he'll applaud when it's Varkovich's turn. Varkovich defends himself, claiming he didn't want that to happen. The group keeps walking, passing the unsettling sight of an impaled crow. Later, Harkness reports that Ronald is suffering from severe diarrhea. Shortly after, Ronald can't take it anymore and stops. Ignoring the shouts for him to pull down his pants and keep going, the man gives in to the pain and is executed. Stevens comments coldly that it's something they will all go through. The first night falls. The commander congratulates them briefly, reminding them that for some, it will be their last. In the early morning, Ray is sleepwalking. Pete wakes it up just before he gets another warning. Ray was dreaming about his mother in a lullaby. To keep him awake, Pete asks him to talk about her. Han interrupts with crude jokes about Ray's mother, almost starting a fight. Ray confesses he misses his mother. Pete asks if he has a girlfriend. Ray admits he broke up with her because of the march. Distracted by the conversation, Ray slows his pace and gets his 2nd warning. Varkovich taunts him. Ray, frustrated, falters again and receives his 3rd and final warning. Desperate, Ray yells at them to stop pretending they care, accusing them of wanting him dead to improve their odds. Just then, they reach a steep hill. Ray is on his 3rd and final warning. Stevens warns that 28 competitors died there years ago. The climb is brutal. Several walkers can't keep the pace, fall, and are executed. Ray, on his last chance, is on the brink of collapse, but Pete stays by his side, giving him water and forcing him to focus one step at a time until they reach the top. Once at the top, having survived, Ray apologizes to Pete for his outburst. At dawn on the 2nd day, Pete asks Ray if he really thinks he can win. Ray confesses he needs to win for personal reasons, but he honestly doesn't think he has a chance. Pete admits he lost hope with Curly's death. When his body fails him, he'll sit down and wait for the end, though he insists he'll at least last longer than Varkovich. They realize only 18 walkers are left. Shortly after, Harkness, the writer, twists his ankle and is executed. Ray's cry of grief provokes another taunt from Varkovich about his sensitivity. Pete, fed up, calls Varkovich a murderer, and Varkovich replies threateningly. The commander reappears to congratulate them on reaching 160 kilometers. When he leaves, Stevens reveals that the commander isn't superhuman. He just sleeps at night. Stevens sneezes but insists it's just allergies. Suddenly, a walker tries to escape by running into the woods, but he is gunned down. To kill time, the Musketeers start talking about the grand prize again. Baker jokes about a massage, but then says he'd ask for a rocket to the moon. Han says he'll ask for 10 naked women. Pete criticizes his wish, but then reveals his own. He would ask for the march to have 2 winners, so that in the future, friends would have a hope of surviving together. Ray is moved, and when pressed, confesses his own wish to change things and end the march. Baker warns him the commander could execute him just for that idea, but Ray doesn't care. Inspired, other walkers start shouting insults against the march. On the third day, Baker needs to defecate. He manages to do it while walking, narrowly avoiding execution. The smell drives the others away, giving Ray a moment alone with Pete to confide his secret in him. He tells him his father was his hero and taught him things that were now forbidden, like philosophy and authentic music. Ray vividly remembers the day the soldiers, led by the commander, came to his house. They accused his father of teaching subversive material and gave him a choice: pledge allegiance to the state or die. His father refused. Before the commander ordered his execution, his father yelled to Ray to never forget who he was. Through tears, Ray tells Pete that's why he's there. He's going to kill the commander. His plan is to use his winner's wish to ask for a soldier's rifle, and as soon as he has it, he'll shoot him. Pete tries to reason with him, telling him that a wish based only on revenge isn't enough. He warns him that if he can't see the beauty in the world or the value in people, he's better off just sitting down and letting them kill him. Their conversation is interrupted by seeing others fall. Number 4 is eliminated due to foot pain. Number 24, Tressler, goes crazy, screaming that he wants to go home, and is executed. Later, Stevens mocks Ray for his exhaustion and points out Han, muttering that he's about to give up. Ray approaches his musketeer friend and finds him delirious, raving about God's garden. Han gets a warning and suddenly sits down in the road. The soldiers shoot him, but intentionally only wound him in the stomach, leaving him to bleed out. Baker, horrified, screams and tries to go back. Ray and Baker get warnings for stopping, and Ray has to forcibly drag Baker along, yelling at him that Han is already dead. Baker breaks down, crying about abandoning him. The next morning, on the 4th day, Parker tells them Han was married and his wife's name is Clementine. Pete, moved, proposes a pact. Whoever wins will use part of the prize to help her. Ray, Baker, and Parker agree. Stevens, who is listening, also joins in, though he admits that he really is sick now. At that moment, Varkovich approaches Ray, looking desperate. He feels left out of the pact and breaks down, confessing through sobs that he never wanted Rangtata and that he can't get the image out of his head. Ray, seeing his remorse, includes him in the pact. Varkovich clings to this, saying his father was right about friends and that he doesn't want to die hated. Ray calms him, telling him they are friends now. Varkovich, still crying, yells that he has to go, runs to the edge of the road, and takes his own life by slitting his throat. The group, now reduced to 5, walks on. They pass through Freeport, Ray's hometown. His shoes are in shreds, and he's walking barefoot on the pavement. Suddenly, he sees his mother, Jenny, in the crowd. She sees his bloody feet, and her face fills with horror. Ray, broken, stops and receives a warning. Crying, he walks toward her, begging for forgiveness, saying he messed everything up. Pete reacts, runs after him, and forces him back onto the road, yelling that he can't give up in front of her. Ray shouts that he should have stayed in the car. To keep him focused, Pete tells him his own story. His parents died in the war. He was raised by an alcoholic uncle who beat him, and after his uncle's death, he lived on the streets. He shows him a large scar on his neck from when he was stabbed and left for dead. He says that when he woke up, he promised himself to choose light over darkness. Pete tells Ray that he has nothing to lose, but Ray does have a mother. He begs him, if he wins, to choose love and go home to her. With 5 of them left, Stevens, feeling his illness consuming him, proposes a new pact. No one helps anyone, as it only prolongs the torture. They all accept. Almost immediately, Parker gives up, attacks a convoy, and takes his own life. Shortly after, Baker begins to bleed profusely from his nose. Stevens diagnoses it as internal bleeding. True to the pact, no one helps him. Baker knows it's his end. He asks them to walk with him a little longer, hands Ray across for his grandmother, and makes them promise not to watch. He says goodbye, stops, and is eliminated. Only 3 are left: Ray, Pete, and Stevens. The commander appears to congratulate them. Ray, filled with hatred, insults him. The commander, amused, says that's the killer spirit he's looking for. Pete asks what would happen if all 3 of them stopped. Stevens, delirious with fever, reveals his secret. He is the commander's bastard son. He joined the march hoping that, by winning, his father would acknowledge him. But now, feeling his organs failing, he says he'd rather die with his head held high. He says goodbye, stops, and screams at the commander to kill him. He is executed. Only Ray and Pete are left. They walk in the rain. Ray confesses to Pete that he's no longer afraid to die. They reach kilometer 532 before a large crowd. Suddenly, Pete stops and sits down, telling Ray that he should win for his mother. Ray, desperate, screams at him to get up and forces him to his feet, insisting they are in this together. Pete, moved, agrees, but just as Pete takes a step, Ray stops. He hangs back. Understanding that Pete deserves the prize, he accepts his fate. The commander executes him. The crowd erupts in cheers for Pete, the winner. The commander approaches and asks him what his wish is. Pete, his gaze fixed on Ray's body, asks for a rifle, saying he wants it as a souvenir. The commander, pleased, orders one to be given to him. The instant Pete has the weapon, he aims it at the commander and says, "This is for Ray." The commander tries to remind him of the prize, but Pete shoots and kills him. The movie ends with Pete alone on the dark, rainy road, continuing the march.